What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel, and I felt like I had to do this video to explain my complicated feelings towards eFootball, right? So I've said it many times, so I'll give you a quick summary for those who have already heard it. I gave eFootball several runs in the past, but I came into it with like a FC mind, being pretty much a lifelong FIFA player. And each of those 3 times I turned the game on, I just couldn't get into it. I didn't understand what all the fuss was about, and shortly thereafter, I just stopped playing it. Then, this 4th time, I obviously had started creating content around UFL, and then FC, came into that too. So now I was covering both UFL and FC, and some of the players started saying you should cover eFootball. It's an excellent game, and these are people that I've talked to, on social media quite a bit and had respect for through our conversations. So I decided to give it a go, but with a total different mindset, and this time I started to see what was good about the game. Now, unfortunately, after I started learning a lot of, the different elements of the game through the training and through playing the AI, which you always do at the start of like their division climb, essentially divisions 10 through 7 are all AI. So it's a pretty good setup, even though at first it's like, why am I playing AI? But then you realize there's just so much to learn, and it gives you a perfect opportunity to learn without any types of pressure or any opponents that might, know these certain things that, you won't really be able to actually train different things or try different things. So the concept, after you really look into it, is a good concept, playing the AI. However, the disappointing part is that you learn all these things, you play the AI, and then you get into Division 6, and it's a totally different game. And that is where my thoughts on eFootball get complicated. Because if you ask me what the best football game is, eFootball, hands down. Because you can produce the most true-to-life football experience in eFootball. The icons that they have in this game, the legends, whatever you want to call them, are the most true to their real-life characters. The way they play, their animations, all their skill sets. It's truly an amazing game that Konami created with so many details, so many nuances. And so as you're playing and you create these awesome football moments, it is the most satisfying of all the football games by far, right? Which makes you want to play the game. It has this deep allure to it where you might get bored of other games, or they might get sort of that repetitive feeling, that stale feeling. eFootball does not get that when you're playing it in its raw form the way Konami created it. However, in comes the player base, who the game is created for, right? And for whatever reason, somewhere along the line, the players must have said, this is too hard, or we don't like the game you created, Konami, which is insane, but that has to be the case considering what Konami added to the game, which is quick counter, a play style that is a pressure tactic, essentially. If you're an FC player or a FIFA player, it would be similar to constant pressure, except for it's a play style that is done the entire game, where your players have a high line, are compact, and they essentially run straight at the opponent and try to get the ball back as quickly as possible. Now you add this with another addition to the game that I don't like, which is pressure tactics just in general. You hold X, and the player you're controlling literally beelines for the player with the ball using what has to be a sprint boost. I don't know for sure if it is a sprint boost or it just seems like that, but I'm almost positive. I just don't know the amount of the boost that you get. And it's the same with AI assist. You hold down, for my controls it would be R1, whatever your controls are, the AI assist button. So you combine that with X, what they call the pressure button, and you have the player you're controlling and the AI on this speed boost running straight at the player with the ball, and you already have your team so compact, and the amount of time it takes to pass, shoot, do anything in eFootball already is a bit delayed, right? Because you have a power-up bar, and essentially you're waiting for that to power up. So that is not a problem if you remove quick counter and or you remove or nerf the pressure tactics with holding, like I said, my controls X and R1, or the pressure button and the AI assist button. Those things combined, quick counter and those defensive pressure tactics, are what ruined the game, because every team says this is how I can win the ball back better, and so they put their team straight down the middle of the field, compact their players, and then once they win the ball, they just press triangle for a through ball and run through to try to score on you over and over and over. And if they can't do that with through balls, they're going to pressure you so hard that you make a defensive mistake and they run through and score that way. It is not football at all. It is straight down the middle nonsense. And once you get two players playing it against each other, it becomes literally a mess of just the ball bouncing back and forth between the two teams. If you watch a previous video, the title was something along the lines of the fascinating self-sabotage of beautiful eFootball, right? That shows a number 3 in the world player playing a number 10 in the world player, both using quick counter, and it was the ugliest game you could ever imagine. Each player just looked like they had never played football before. They were kicking the ball at one another until eventually someone bounced the ball off of a defender or an attacker or whatever, and it got into a place where they could shoot and score. But it wasn't any kind of build-up or any kind of football you'd expect from two top 10 players, one being as high as number 3 in the world. Now, why I'm telling you this with this game in the backdrop is because this is at one point the number 810 player in the world. And, based on my hours of play, I'm around 3+ weeks in, maybe even a little less, because I grind 3 football games in that short time period I've been playing. However, it is definitely less than a month. So to play somebody who's got badges from the past, few years, and they got as high as 810 in the world, you see the type of football this player is playing. Constantly just trying to pressure the ball defensively, win it, and press triangle over and over and over, and I'm trying to play football. My goal was, if you've been watching my videos, if not, I could tell you, my goal was to show the way the game could be played, the capabilities, if Konami would just remove this nonsense that they clearly put in to help lower skilled or non-skilled players. And it's evident in a lot of the opponents you face that just have zero football skill whatsoever. They'll still go get the Hullets, the Maradonas, the CR7s, the Messis, all these players, but they do not utilize them at all like their real life counterparts. They do not even utilize them as real footballers. It is literally just an abuse of pressure tactics to try to cover up a lack of skill, a lack of ability to pass and move and create true build up and scoring opportunities, right? To truly defend and try to win the ball with skill, with anticipating passing lanes and dribbling and committing to tackles at the right time and all the things that make football. And again, eFootball, it's unique because they created a game with all these things and they did a brilliant job, but that's why I call it self-sabotage. Yes, the players are the ones choosing to play like this, which is sad in its own right that players waste their time to not even really play football, but to do whatever you call this. But at the end of the day, Konami added these things in the game. They chose to change this. Essentially, I honestly think it would be a masterpiece. They chose to put these pressure tactics in the game, quick counter, the pressure button, the AI assist button, and the way it is utilized with the speed boost the defenders get, right? They chose to put these things in the game to cater to a certain player or level of player, and it's their own fault that the game got ruined. And the meta is essentially a non-skill based football experience, which is why many of the players you face, it's similar to this. They don't play football at all. They're pressuring you 100 miles an hour. Obviously, as I get better, maybe there are ways around, getting beat by these kind of pressure tactics. However, even if that's the case, it doesn't change the fact that this is the meta of an amazing game like eFootball. If you just, released a video just on this game alone, many players are going to say, I'm sticking to FC, or I'm playing FC, or I'm sticking to UFL, or I'm playing UFL. Because there isn't really football going on, right? You have one player trying to play football in the black, and then you have one player in the red who clearly could care less about football. They just need to get the win, right? And so they're just trying to run at you 100 miles an hour and win the ball back so they can then play a through ball and get a shot on target, or pressure you so hard they win the ball back in an area where they can just tap the ball in, which does happen a lot. Skill is not rewarded in this game, but the crazy thing is it's not because there's exploits that the development company hasn't removed yet. It's literally because of tactics that Konami themselves put in the game. You just saw those stats. That is how many games go. It doesn't matter that I'm 3 weeks in. It doesn't matter that I'm playing players that have been playing for years and that are high ranked. They just don't, for the very, very vast majority, based on just a collective players that I play, they just don't have skill. They just need that win. And the crazy thing is, too, on top of that, the true rewards in this game come from putting money in and pulling some of these legendary players. The rewards in general that you get from even grinding or getting wins, which this is a division game anyway, the rewards aren't worth it. There's next to no rewards in the game. So the fact that players are still wasting their time playing like you see this player, which it actually is even worse many times, that just blows my mind. What is the point? When we start playing these games, it's because we love football, right? Or at least we want to play football. We want to compete in a football game. For me, this replaces my competitive footballing years, right? I can't go out and play anymore. I'm getting older, but guess what? I can play football games, and that gives me my, ability to, unleash my competitive juices, if you will, as well as stay in tune with the game that I'm so passionate about, right? Watching it is one thing, coaching it is another thing, playing football video games is another thing. And to see eFootball create such an amazing game, to go through the training, the AI levels, and just be fascinated by how good this game is, and just sit here and wonder how this isn't the top football game, right? How it's so far behind FC. And then you get into the upper divisions, namely Division 3 and up, and everybody you play is just essentially doing these ratty things that I've been talking about and that you've been seeing on screen. While, again, I know this player may be a great person. They may not even realize what they're doing. Who knows? However, with the way they play, it just matches up with all the other nonsense you see in eFootball. And so that's the one thing I had to address, so I don't tell players, go play this game. They see me saying it's the best football game, but then again, they do what I did. They train, they learn everything, they play their AI matches, they fall in love with the game, they can't believe how good it is, then boom, they get up to user opponents, and at first they might face some players that are newer that aren't doing these pressure tactics, but I'm talking as early as Division 5, and obviously definitely by Division 3, the game that you learned and have been practicing and that you love so much it doesn't even exist anymore. So with this big patch, if eFootball is able to recognize this and either nerf or remove quick counter and the defensive pressure tactics and the AI assistance, then you can truly start seeing the beautiful game that eFootball is. However, if they do not address these things, eFootball will go down as the best football game ever made, where you can't even utilize the beautiful things in the game due to the nonsense pressure tactics. And trust me, I've heard it, and I know that as I get better, there are ways to get around these kind of pressure tactics, but that doesn't even matter. It doesn't change the fact that these things shouldn't be in the game, and it doesn't change the fact that players that don't have skill are able to climb the rankings in a game like eFootball that does have the ability to showcase great football and to have a huge skill gap where these lower skill players should be getting beat and beat handily every time. Instead, they're able to win and move quite highly up the rankings. Only time will tell if this changes. I just had to make it clear that when I say I love this game and it's an awesome game, it truly is. However, playing this game online, especially as you climb the ranks, shows just how flawed the game is. We will see what happens. Keep grinding, keep having fun. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.